Hi, my name's Audrey DeAngelis. I'm the public historian here at Oatlands, and in my last video I tried to answer the question that we get quite often as to whether George Carter, who initially paid to have the house constructed here at Oatlands, was related to late President Jimmy Carter. And we also very often get the question as to whether the Eustis family, who purchased the house in 1903 and donated the property to the National Trust in the 1960s, whether that Eustis family is connected to Fort Eustis in Newport News here in Virginia. And the answer is yes, but kind of distantly. Not quite as distant as the Carter connection, but a little bit removed. So, let's start on the Fort Eustis side. Now, Fort Eustis was named for a man named Abraham Eustis Jr. He was the first commander of Fort Monroe, which is very close to Fort Eustis. He was also involved in a number of conflicts with Native American nations, including the Black Hawk War, the Seminole Wars, and he was involved in the Trail of Tears as well. So there's a lot to talk about with him and with his military career. He did a fair amount else in his time as well, but his father was a man, unsurprisingly, named Abraham Eustis Sr. Now, Abraham's father was a man named Benjamin Eustis, who was a woodworker, carpenter, up in Massachusetts. Benjamin also had another son named Jacob Eustis, and Jacob had a son named George. George would later have a son named George, who had a son named William, and it's our William who bought Oatlands in 1903. So, that was a big map that I just went through, but Abraham's grandfather is also the grandfather of our William's grandfather. So we've got a few connections to work out here. Abraham Jr. and George are first cousins. However, George, remember, is the grandfather of the man who bought this house, William. So, first cousins with 2 generations separating them, first cousins twice removed. It's actually a lot easier than the fourth cousins 6 times removed from last video, and these two are much more closely related, so William almost certainly knew about the creation of Fort Eustis, which was only in 1911 and initially was called Camp Eustis. It wasn't established as a fort until about 1923, so it is fairly recent and certainly was not established during Abraham Eustis's lifetime. But nonetheless, yes, Fort Eustis was named for a relative of William Eustis who bought Oatlands in 1903.